Good evening and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns Hour here on YouTube and Periscope. My name is Tom Luongo. It is Friday, April 12th, 2019. We've got a lot to talk about. God, do we have a lot to talk about. Always have a lot to talk about. It's tiring talking about everything, but show must go on. So let's do this. You can follow my work over at tomluongo.me. You can also follow me on Twitter at TFL1728. How else can we do this tonight? You can also you can also support my work and subscribe to the Gold Goats and Guns newsletter over at Patreon/GoldGoatsandGuns. Special announcement before we get started. I'm going to start toying with the idea of doing some of these live streams over at dlive.tv. I don't know if you know, you've been following what's going on in live streaming, but DLive is an independent platform that is built around a blockchain reward system, kind of like Steam It for live streamers. It's built on a different blockchain than Steam, but the idea being that we're going to see if they're going to get us around, and I'll actually allow free speech of a reasonable level. And if so, then YouTube is becoming frankly intolerable. I don't know about you, but it's been very obvious about the last month how bad the channel, the shadow banning has become. I'm just kind of setting up. So it's time to start moving off of these platforms for real. Tried doing this in the past. We tried doing Gab TV. We've tried doing other things. It has not worked. So after I get done with this tonight, I'm going to take about a half an hour, maybe 45-minute break. Sorry I'm late because well, my wife's leaving in the morning for a couple days, and I decided to spend some extra time with my wife before she left. So let you know, I'm going to put my link to the DLive page in the stream. Let me make sure I can do that. I'm going to do that now before we get started with the main talk, so we know what's going on. Hold on for just a second. I'm sorry I'm a little bit out of what do you call, out of sorts here, but again, hanging out with the wife. She's leaving, and she's more, I hate to say it, but I love you guys, but you know, she's more important than you are. So let's get the link into the chat so that you guys can see that. Let me see where the heck, see my account. Come on, where's my settings? That it? No, there it is. Copy that live. That's where it is. All right, so we're going to there, and then here y'all are. I'll link this a few times during the stream tonight so you guys all have it. It's pretty straightforward. Go ahead and follow me over there. Setting up an account is really simple. I'm not sure how the whole crypto payment system works yet. I haven't really figured that out, but I just want to see if the streaming service works, and you know how good it looks and if it functions. But dude, if PewDiePie is moving over there, then something's up. I'm sure it's going to function just fine. Guy's got 93 million users, so followers. So in a platform like that, and I'll just start making sure that people know about it on my mailing list and my blog and everything else, and we'll just go there. Because it's time to get out of the ghetto. It's time to it's really truly time to stop this. And I've been a champion of saying, hey, look, you know, the more they try to silence us, the more we're going to come up with new and better platforms to disseminate our work. Well, we should start putting our money where our mouth is and putting our time where our mouth is. And I'm not looking at the sunk cost of time of building a YouTube channel with just under 2,300 subscribers and thinking that that's a big deal, because it's not something that I can't rebuild. And it's not like it's monetized or anything at this point. It's not like we're at that level. So let's move to that and let's see what's going on. So if any of you are going to stay up late tonight, follow me over to DLive. I'll probably be back on by, I don't know, just about maybe around 10 o'clock or so. But we'll do this for the next, oh, not 10 o'clock, 10:30, because we'll do this for the next 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll go from there. All right, so let's talk about Julian Assange. Let's get this. I know I did a stream yesterday talking about this, my initial thoughts on it, but after I got done with that stream yesterday, more stuff came out. We were chatting privately on my Slack channel, with my subscribers, and a couple of them brought up some really good points about the nature of the indictment itself and all of that stuff. I had spent most of last night and early this morning writing a fairly lengthy blog post going over what I think is important. If you haven't read it yet, or if you haven't read the indictment, I recommend that you do, and we'll go from there. So I do see FN Base that you got yourself on the DLive and you like it. Great. I'll take that as an endorsement. But I think PewDiePie is probably the biggest friggin' endorsement of it all. Cool. Wow, you're in Ireland, oddball, and it's 2 o'clock. Huh. Wow. All right. So what's important about this, and I titled the stream Assange, Brexit, Trump, and why it all ties together. And I'm going to go even one step further than that. And I'm going to wait a little bit before I get into that, because I have a distinct feeling that people like Brett Harris and others will probably wind up showing up in the stream at some point. And when Brett Harris is on the line, then we know that we're talking about Browder. And I don't have like hard evidence at this point, but you know where my spidey sense is probably going here. So let's get into it. So why Assange now? Why this? Why all of this? Well, you know, rule number 1 in geopolitics, there are no coincidences. Timing is everything. And I think the biggest bit of timing here is it's not just about grabbing Assange now to dovetail with Theresa May kicking Brexit down the road another 6 months because she works for her, she's you know, completely owned and operated. No, what's really important about this is that it's very obvious with her doing this that she knows she's going to face a leadership challenge sooner rather than later. And and because of that, she's not going to be in office much longer. And they've been setting up this grabbing of Assange for over 2 years now. Okay, this has been going on since Hillary started the process of trying to go after Assange. The moment the WikiLeaks stuff hit the Podesta emails hit the world, right? From that moment forward, Julian Assange was going to be removed from the Ecuadorian embassy. It was just a matter of time, and so I kind of gone over the timeline in the post I put up this morning, in the article I put up this morning. You have Pompeo is put in place as CIA director. He doesn't say boo as CIA director for the first 9 months he's in office, or 8 months he's in office, and then he comes out and practically the first major thing he says is, we're going to declare WikiLeaks as a non-state hostile intelligence service. He does that, and you know why he does that. He does that to now attempt to make the legal argument that we can strip Assange of his immunity as protection as a journalist. Because when we get to the indictment, the way the indictment is written, he's written as if Assange was assisting Manic in the attempt to crack these computers. It's not espionage he's charged with, remind you. Remember, it's just it's not espionage. It's just attempting to crack government computers. It's not really even that. I gotta remember the actual thing, the violation of the CCSA or whatever that thing is. But remember, the indictment, the secret indictment, was put out on March the 6th. 2 weeks later, John Bolton becomes National Security Advisor. A week after that, Rex Tillerson is out and Mike Pompeo is appointed as CIA as Secretary of State. These guys are now put in place. And then from that moment forward, everything begins to ratchet up against Assange, and the whole Trump administration changes overnight and becomes literally a deep state playground. So it's pretty obvious what's happening with this. That it started there and it's just been moving steadily forward. And when you listen to guys like Jeremy Hunt, the foreign secretary, the British foreign secretary, say today's operation was a culmination of years of careful diplomacy. Years of careful diplomacy mean we put pressure on Ecuador until they finally cracked in the form of a $4.2 billion IMF bailout or restructuring package or whatever you want to call it. Just puts them on a hook. It's even worse. Lenin Moreno, the president of Ecuador, has been completely sold not only Assange but his country down the river in doing this. And I'm sure that he looks over his shoulder and he sees the lengths to which we're willing to oust Maduro and the pain that we're willing to put the Venezuelans through. And you got to think that Ecuador was next on the list if they didn't do that. Martin Armstrong made oblique reference to them ratcheting up the thing, the pressure to the point of saying that they were going to kick Ecuador out of the freaking SWIFT system. You can see the level of, and you can see the level of coordinated attack here. You can see the level to which they were willing to go. And we've been able to see that for the last year and a half with Trump's foreign policy, which is just a freaking nightmare. So I'm not worried about any kind of trial. User 13 is bringing up the point that, and I did bring this point in the article, which is that if Assange is a decent lawyer, they'll take Bradley and Manning Part as a desperate, mentally ill young man who will throw anybody under the bus. You're absolutely right, but don't think that this is ever going to go to trial. The whole point of grabbing Julian Assange is to ensure that he never speaks in public again. He will be thrown in a hole. There will be no trial. They will trump up a contempt of court charge. They will throw him in solitary confinement, and that will be the end of it. The minute he looks at the judge cross-eyed, he'll be thrown in jail, like Martin Armstrong, in solitary confinement on a contempt of court charge. Book it. What they did to Armstrong, they're going to do to Assange. They want him memory hold. That's what's coming. That is what's coming, and nothing more than that. It doesn't have to be, and that's what's coming. He was going to get one more opportunity to speak in public at the sentencing hearing, I think, on May 22nd. I think that's about it. Yeah, please don't insult the mafia like that. Alex Grant says the indictment was just a front to give the UK plausible deniability. The real changes will be much worse. So your real charges will be much worse. Maybe. I don't even know that it matters at this point. FN, I've already mentioned that Ecuador got $4 billion from the IMF. It was a and even worse than that, you have to understand that IMF money comes with complete strings. That $4 billion will bankrupt Ecuador. It will keep them a pliable and compliant U.S. satrap in South America. And you look at what's going on in South America right now. The U.S. is moving, under Bolton, is moving to colonize the entirety of South America. The only country they haven't really gone after yet is either both Paraguay, Uruguay, and Chile. Everybody else, no. Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Brazil, Argentina. Ain't much left. So it's all bad. There's nobody riding in to save the day here. There's nobody. Trump's not going to save Julian Assange. This isn't a big Q-tard conspiracy. No, if this was that, if Trump had a plan for Julian Assange, that was, we're going to use him at a trial to finally get Hillary, the Brits would not have been involved. True, Bolivia is still acting independently. Not for long. They're next. Okay. So, if you got to remember here, The Brits are up to their eyeballs in all of this. Anything that Assange actually has implicates them just as badly as anything in the United States. Okay? Australia is not saying a damn thing about their about one of their citizens being held on a trumped-up charge in Britain, awaiting extradition to the United States. It's insane. They're not even like putting up a token resistance. That's how sad and pathetic the Australians are. And I mean, in every way. So, and the Brits are up to their eyeballs in this. And it's not just the Iraq and Afghanistan war secrets. It's not just the Podesta emails. It's not any of that. It's so much bigger than that. If Assange has anything worth a damn, they have to shut him up. They have to do, but they have to do so in such a way that they actually discredit him. They have to make him look terrible. They've already done this to Bradley Manning. Okay? Assange is next. All right? This is what's coming. I honestly think all of this, and they're going to try and retcon some, they're already doing it now. They're going to try and retcon some stupid idea, some stupid narrative that Assange and Trump were working together with the Russians, and they're going to try and turn WikiLeaks into a wholly owned subsidiary of the KGB. It's retarded. I mean, it really is, but that's what they're going to do. And the worst part about it is that the way they're going to present this, the law and order conservative, very conscientious conservatives in this country, that part of the MAGA crowd that still loves Trump, Trump is going to be told to go out and sell this. And they're going to believe him. And they're going to turn that 25% of the country against Assange. We've already got the other 25% of the country, the hardcore progressives, already hate his guts. They're all out there crowing. It's disgusting. So, in no way, manner, shape, or form, this is going to gut, because, look, it's so much bigger than this. Everything that we've been talking about with Brett Harris and Stranahan and the rest of them about Bill Browder, about Browder and the MI6 and the whole Five Eyes thing and all of it. They're all up to their eyeballs in this. The British government was up to their necks in creating a conspiracy to frame the U.S. president for treason. And now they're going to try and hang that on Julian Assange. And this had to be done before Theresa May left power, because the entire British government was handpicked to make sure that the status quo was not changed, that Brexit didn't actually happen, that Trump wasn't actually president, or any of these things. Theresa May, Philip Hammond, Dominic Grieve, Michael Gove, all of these people. Amber Rudd, all of them. They're all part of the process of ensuring that nothing actually changed. Because the last thing that this group of people that run all of our governments, that run the British and U.S. deep state, the British aristocracy and ruling class, the American corporate oligarchy, none of them, and the EU, they're all the same people, and I call them the Davos crowd, as you well know. Those people cannot have British foreign policy back in the hands of the people. We can't have we can't have British defense and security and intelligence services not completely and thoroughly coordinated in every way with the Americans in the EU. Theresa May's already signed all those documents. She's already signed over all of Britain's all of British military and defense coordination. It's already done. They can't actually, it's part of the biggest problem with Brexit is they can't She can't square that circle because she's already signed it all away, thinking that Brexit was a done deal, that they were going to ruin it with this withdrawal treaty. And so it had to be done before Theresa May leaves power, because there's no way the Tories are going to win an election now. And they know this. So they had to either let Brexit happen or let the Tories leave power. They couldn't get both. They're not going to be able to keep the Tories in power, keep Theresa May in power. Because you want to know why she hasn't fired half her recalcitrant cabinet members? You know why she hasn't stepped down out of shame? It's because she's owned and operated. She's exactly where she's supposed to be, doing the job she was hired to do, which is to protect all of these secrets for as long as possible. And getting the Assange operation finished is just one more thing that needed to be done off the deep state's to-do list before a British general election where Jeremy Corbyn's going to wind up as prime minister, at least for a week or two, until they friggin', kill him or completely neuter him, or there's a revolt within the Labour Party. No, Farage isn't even going to. I don't buy that Stoyanovich that Farage is going to assure a Labour victory. I don't believe that. I think Theresa May already did that. And I think actually, given the way this is going right now, you actually want Corbyn to take over. Because, look, Corbyn is a Eurosceptic. He understands politically there was no way they were going to get the Brits out of the European Union. He doesn't really want them to leave the European Union, but he doesn't like the EU. Now, he isn't on board with full-throated support of Israel. He's not on, so that makes him an anti-Semite. He's not on board with what's going on with Assange or any of this stuff. The main thing, and look, don't get me wrong, I think Jeremy Corbyn is a terrible idea as a Prime Minister of Britain, but not in the long run. But as a 6-month or 1 year squeaky, failing ball bearing in the joint, yeah, I think it's a good idea. So, exactly. In the short term, Corbyn might actually be a fly in the ointment. It's the best I got, guys. Because it's all bad. None of it's any good. So, I don't know what else to tell you, but that's what I'm thinking. So, and then all of this, of course, is ties. This all ties back to Theresa May's government in Britain has been so virulently anti-Russian. You'd think Theresa May real last name was Clinton, for fuck's sake. The Tories aren't going to identify and unite Stoyanovich. Theresa May's destroying them. She's doing it on purpose. She's not trying to hold them together. She's purposely trying to drive them drive them apart. The whole purpose of this exercise with Brexit is to destroy the British parliamentary system. That's the goal. Brexit, once it happened, they said, okay, well, if they're going to have Brexit, we're going to destroy your government in the process. We're going to destroy the people's faith in the government. Then we're going to destroy the institutions. We're going to force the people who are there to do the most heinous things imaginable to it. We're going to destroy the oldest parliament in the world, because the goal is to make the EU and its unelected corporate technocratic council look like the future. That's the future. We want Politburos. We don't want elected governments. We want to prove to the people, not the Not us Gen Xers, not the baby boomers. Fuck those people. Fuck us. We're not important. What's important is the generations coming up. We want to prove to them that democracy is a dumb idea and that tyranny is so much better. That's what they've been setting these kids up for 2 generations. That's what the whole long march of the institutions was all about. That's where we are. And so watching this play itself out is so very obvious what the plan is at this point. So obvious what the goal is. So it's all just terrible. God, I hate to black pill you that bad, but that's where we are. I got news for you. They like the Chinese social credit system. Okay? It's coming here. It's coming. It's not good. The only good news in all of this is that none of this is sustainable. And that, in some ways, we're winning the war while they win battles. Because we can see them doing this stuff now. And as much as they try to stop us from talking to each other and organizing, and as much as they try to just put roadblocks up in front of us, it's not really working. I mean, when you get a piece of milquetoast like PewDiePie, quit YouTube and go, I don't need your blood money anymore. I've made enough money off your platform. I don't actually fucking need it anymore. And when you get a guy like that to turn around and have some fucking principles, Cube Dog with the huge callback to a stream earlier in the week, where I was talking about this is great. I sit and I have these high level political discussions with my good friend and business partner, and he says, "But no, Tom, really, they can't be that dumb, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, they can." "No, Tom, really, they can't be that dumb. Can people really be that dumb?" I'm like, "Yeah, they can be, but not that dumb." Yeah, dude, they're really that dumb. Come on, man. Seriously, they're not that dumb. Yeah, they are. Thank you, Cuba. Thanks, Cube Dog. Appreciate that one. The social credit system was actually implemented 5 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I was on with Jeff Rentz last night, reminding him that I was watching an episode of the Grand Tour a few weeks ago where they went to China, and they could barely drive because there's a camera taking their picture every 100 yards and flashing in their eyeballs. When you drive down the highways in China, aside from the fact that you're not allowed to speed, there's the speed cameras every 100 yards. There's not only speed cameras every 100 yards, there's actual physical cameras taking your picture every 100 yards. They have all the cities completely locked down. They know exactly what you're doing all the time. It's literally paranoia. So GGnG reminds me that there is some good news. Venezuela regime change is being blocked by Russia and China. Yeah, for the most part, that's working out. The no more Israeli plane attacks on Syria. For the most part, the S-300s are working. And the Spetsnaz took out ISIS today, which I missed. Where was that? Introduction of a single global monetary system is how far away? Oh, that's not coming. This thing's going to collapse first, and there's not going to be anything like that at all. It is horrendous. Patrick Vidian. Go watch the episode of the Grand Tour if you've got Amazon Prime. Go watch the episode of the Grand Tour when they go to China, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It's crazy. They drive. I think they drive a whole bunch of Chinese knockoff. Oh no, they bring a whole bunch of old European like luxury cars to China, and to show them what they. It was really funny. Oh, so they went. So ISIS was in Russia, and the Spetsnaz took them out. Wow. Red Barchetta, China style. Yeah, there you go. I'm not being a big meanie to the IMF. They're horrible. I know you're being sarcastic, Elva Caro. I can't help it. So in Tiananmen, Russia. Huh. I don't know where Tiananmen is. But that's great. Is that on RT? Because that'd be fucking hysterical. Hold on for a second, because I'm sure that's all over RT. Kill 2 ISIS militants in anti-terrorist raid in Tiananmen. Nice. Yeah. Yep. I know there are a lot of ISIS cells in Russia, and that's one of the things that that Putin has no patience for, and he hates the fact that the Americans continue to try and use them as their the tip of their spear. It's just terrible. It's just insane. Wow. Huh. Interesting. You know, when you look at what's truly happening, right? It's hard to be it's hard to not to be completely and utterly ashamed of your country. User 13 reminds us that Ben Sasse, that the senators are all cheering about Assange getting taken into custody is sickening. It is sickening. But these people are corrupt to the gills. They either truly believe that what Assange did was wrong because state secrets should not be they have the right, the state has the right to keep the kinds of secrets that it does, which it doesn't under any circumstances. The fact that as a state you believe that you need to do these things invalidates you. It doesn't matter that the other guys are doing it. It's wrong. What's the difference between Assange and the Watergate reporters? Assange went after the wrong people. Assange went after the queen of the deep state. Woodward and Bernstein went after a president that they were trying to get rid of. It was like 30. So the Spetsnaz up in Siberia was like, it was like 30 vehicles, Spetsnaz, and the house burned. So much for that CIA op, says North on 60. I like that. Yeah, there's no transparency and truth in multiplex. It's all about protecting state secrets. You know, it's now illegal to report and let the people who paid for the illegal activity. So it's illegal for us as the taxpayers to talk to each other about the illegal activity of our government that they try to keep from us. See, this is what you do. This is what happens when you give government the power to write laws, exempting itself from behavior that's not allowed in polite society. This is the fundamental definition of government. Government is always allowed to engage in activity that is considered abhorrent in polite society. It's like it's like libertarian, it's like libertarianism 101. Rob Smith says, you got to go to bed. I'm sorry. Well, sleep well. That my analysis on Brexit is spot on. Thank you from a Brit for getting what's actually happening in this shithole to the people in the state, to the people in the States, and hopefully to the people around the world as well. I do my best, Rob, and I appreciate the feedback. Worked really hard at it, so I certainly hope I wasn't too. I hope I learned something in the process. But sleep well. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. But, as I said last night, I was talking to Jeff Rentz on his show, and he didn't know anything about the stuff I was talking about with China. He didn't know anything about what's going on with why the blackouts. We were talking in Venezuela. Not only were they used to frighten the crap out of Moreno in Ecuador, but it also nearly destroyed the Venezuelan pipeline system, because they're now all clogged with freaking tar. Dragon M says, Tom, the U.S. is sanctioning half the world now. Is this not going to hurt our economy? Well, yeah, because we won't have anybody left to trade with. It's like it's killing the entire world economy. It's killing emerging markets. It's killing everybody. And what Trump is, what Trump and company are trying to do, they don't understand that you can't beat everybody. John Bolton honestly believes that if you just keep beating people, eventually they'll give in. So he's got to beat everybody. That's who this guy is. Like it's disgusting. And the thing about it is that the EU is not any better. I mean, it's not like there's the only antipode we have at this point to all of this shit is Russia. And that's sad. Because it's not like Putin's Russia is, any kind of, dreamland or anything. It's not like it's a fucking utopia. It's just slightly better in some ways. They still have an 18% fucking VAT, for Christ's sake. It's killing their economy. They still have a friggin' IMF-dominated central bank. It's... Oh, the EU, it will be worse if it doesn't fall apart first. Elvacaro says that the EU would be worse than our deep state if it had the ability to be. What's that? Think sales tax. Just think 18 to 22% sales tax, as opposed to 6 or 7. They call it value-added tax in Europe. We call it sales tax here in the United States. It's the same thing. Our VAT's only 6%. They're 6 to 8%. That's why they hate us so much. They want us to normalize their VAT. Like this, so that we can all be on the same. We can all be on the same shitty playing field. So we can all play on the same, muddy, shit-ridden playing field. Like, no, fuck you. We're lowering our taxes, which is exactly what we need to be doing. Trump needs to just... never mind. I you know what Trump needs to do? Trump needs to leave the fucking scene is what Trump needs to do. Yeah, I'd rather normalize their Eurocrat faces. Exactly. These people are evil. Why do they do that? They're evil. They're ruthless, they're evil, and they're disgusting. And there's nothing about any of this that's good. And, look, there's a lot about Julian Assange that I'm not convinced of, okay? I don't consider him, an unmitigated hero or anything. Right? I don't. I think, if they don't have anything at this point, then what's been going on for the last 3 or 4 years is really since Vault 7. If they don't have anything else, then this is all just about Julian Assange not wanting to go to fucking prison. And I'm sorry, dude. You go to prison at this point. You're this pot committed, you go. And it bothers me that, and I mean that, if I'm in Assange's position at this point, my life is already over. I've already spent 7 years living in a fucking hotel room in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, in a shithole like London. Yeah, let's go. Let's go the whole 9. Take me out. open up the keys, unlock the vault, send it all. But if they don't have anything, you know, I mean, does Assange have the courage to be vilified? Because that's what's coming. The VAT here in UK is 20%. It was a temporary measure introduced 3 decades ago. Exactly. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Yes. There are no temporary tax increases. Of course there aren't. Julian Assange should have a dead man switch, right? Yeah, but of what? Does he have anything still? Cassandra Fairbanks is saying that he's holding off releasing everything because he needs to have it as an insurance policy. I got news for you, dude. There comes a point where what you got is losing value. I say this all the time. Poor people are poor because they don't understand the time value of money. Everything has a time value. Every object, every commodity, every piece of information, everything has a time value associated with. Everything's on an option on the decaying value of whatever whatever the value of that thing is. Over time, it just degrades. Very few things retain their value through time. Certainly not information. So the longer this goes on without him dropping everything in everybody's lap, the longer the longer they're going to have to set up the narrative that he's a Russian spy. Okay? Because that's what they're going for. Fiona Whelan, Russia's economy is weak but resilient. Their main products are energy and food. I understand that. In times of economic boom, such an economy looks dull, but very hard to knock it over in times of trouble. I agree. I'm very bullish on Russia. I'm angry knowing what I know about the Russian economy. I'm very angry about the way I see the opportunity for them to break out of where they are and break into the next level of division of labor, right? To break to that next level of fine-tuning the division of labor. And there's very specific institutions still in place that are hampering that, and they're being and that's being done on purpose. And that's fifth columnists within the Russian government and within the Russian institutions to keep it from flourishing. Because right now, with the capital flight that I'm seeing around the world, Russia should be flourishing. It should be a haven for foreign investment and for capital inflows, and it's not. Somewhat. And it will be, and the longer this goes on, they try and drag this out here in the West, the better Russia will look in the long run. I understand that Putin's playing that game of attrition, and I understand what's happening from that front. I get it. It's just very frustrating watching how slowly this is taking to get off the ground. But it's beginning to build. So. And User 13 reminds us the longer that Assange waits, the more time he gives the intelligence agencies to find and destroy whatever information it is that he has. Assange will be granted the privilege of a gender reassignment surgery so he can share a cell with Chelsea. Yeah. Gold does retain its value for the most part. It retains its purchasing power over time because very few things are gold. But even gold has a time value associated with it. Yeah, there was a Mercedes just opened a factory in Russia on Wednesday. It was it was a big deal. But again, it's not fast enough. It's coming. It's not fast enough. It's not about slow growth is better controlled, Stoyanovich. It's about them really. It's about the central bank almost purposefully trying to stifle the credit cycle, the virtuous part of the credit cycle. And I'm not saying that they need to be growing at 7 or 8. It's not about GDP. It's about it's about the lack of they're not improving their internal capital handling. And that's part of, and that's what our comparative advantage is, our ability to handle capital and move it where it needs to go. They don't have as much of, they don't have that. And the Russian banking system really isn't designed for that yet. And it's just taking forever to unwind all that. And honestly, Nabiulina is not helping it because she's an IMF trained economist. I understand that why they're trying to limit "quote unquote" foreign investment. They can take all the money they want in rubles. It's not about that. It's actually about it's not about that. Internally, Russian business loans are 11 to 12% because the Russian central bank keeps raising interest rates during when they're not even getting GDP growth above 2%. For fuck's sake, she almost crashed the company after she rang inflation out of the economy so hard after the ruble meltdown that they almost got deflation. They almost went backwards. She kept interest rates so high for so long, and she was planning on keeping them higher at 10% reference rate for another 6 months until Putin walked into her offices and fucking drop interest rates already. Or quit and stop doing the bidding of fucking Angela Merkel and take care of this shit. Literally, he walks in on the 23rd of May or on the 18th of May, and on the 23rd she cuts interest rates half a point. This was in 2017. It was so, I mean, I watched it. I don't trust her. I shouldn't trust her because, again, Putin still hasn't wrung out all of the fucking commies and all the Atlanticist commies, all the fucking neocons and frankly European shitbags who are still trying to destroy the Russian economy, still trying to make them European, for fuck's sake. Belvicaro, I'm with you on this. The problem is, of course, having a debt-based fiat combined with compound interest always turns into requiring perpetual exponential growth. I agree. Look, the Russian economy, I'm not arguing that they should have 2% reference rate, but they should have cut to 6 before she started raising rates again. She responded to Trump's fucking ridiculous fucking sanctioning of Rusal last year and the ruble dropping by 15% by raising interest rates. They hadn't even started the virtuous part of the credit cycle, for fuck's sake, and this bitch is fucking killing it. Ridiculous. So I don't know. I don't want to go off on the Russian economy is far afield of what I want to talk about. But who is behind the rising oil price? Supply and demand. Trump is cutting off. I mean, look, in the last 2 months, reckless abandon, Venezuela's exports have dropped 400,000 barrels. The Saudis keep, allowing, and they cut production as well. The Russians have cut production a little bit. Trump's sanctions are taking oil off the market, and we can't get any more oil to the market than what we're already getting. We can't export anymore. We're producing. I love the fact that we talk about all the numbers about the millions of barrels that we're producing, but we can't get it to market. So that's what's going on. And I mean, the oil market, the oil prices rising at this point are, the Saudis want it, the Russians are happy with it. Trump's not happy with it because Trump wants lower oil prices because he wants to get reelected next year. Fun Fang tells me that Putin has to tread very carefully to be crushed. The banks and its owners are bigger than the countries, and there are no national banks. They are all private. Fiona Whelan, Tom, you're right about the Russian central bank president Nabiulina. She got the title of the best central bank president by the IMF in 2017. That should tell you something. Well, yeah, she ran the IMF's playbook. Now, here's the thing: Russia needed that to be done under the circumstances. I didn't have a problem with that then. They had to do something. Okay, she had to, but all my argument against Nabiulina is that she was 6 or 7 months behind the curve, really behind the curve in lowering rates. And she held them far too high for far too long. And I think she did it because she knows what that kind of austerity would do, which is that it would stunt the Russian recovery. Because the last thing anybody in the West wanted was for Russia to be growing at 4.5%, 5%, 2.5 years after after a currency crisis. Meanwhile, Europe is in a recession and we're getting fucked, and that's bad for business if the Russian economy looks good. So why can't we get our own oil to market? There's no pipeline there's no pipeline infrastructure. The output coming out of Permian and Eagle Ford and all that is far outstripping our ability to just get the shit to market. Now, their new pipelines are coming online. There's plenty of pipeline MLPs that are building pipelines to get this stuff to the coast, but they're not going to be online until the end of the year. U.S. production is not maxed out yet, but as of right now, relative to our ability to get it to market, doesn't matter. A lot of the U.S. oil is actually Canadian oil, for sale at $14 a barrel because the U.S. is blocking all our pipelines except the ones to the U.S. Yeah, without a financial crisis, yeah, I agree with that. Elva Caro says, without a financial crisis, U.S. production probably won't max out for at least another 2 or 3 years. A financial crisis would change that, though. Rising interest rates in the United States would change that. Dragon M says, if Iran were to be attacked and the Strait of Hormuz got blocked, that would block 80% of Saudi oil, causing oil to go to $300 a barrel, resulting in Russia cashing in big time and the U.S. economy grinding to a fucking halt, by the way. Which is why Iran won't get attacked. I know this. I've known this for years. There's no way to attack Iran. John Bolton keeps trying to figure out ways he can attack Iran. John Bolton's got the bigger problem, is that Iran is now going to ask Iraq, is pressuring Iraq to formally withdraw our invitation to Iraq, at which point we're going to need to leave, or we're going to be flouting not only international law, but national law. So we don't even have good distribution within the U.S. One pipeline from L.A. gets hit by a hurricane, and Atlanta and Georgia run dry on gas. You do realize that most of the oil that we refine, we refine into gasoline. We export most of it. For years, the Brent price of crude was far more indicative of the price of gasoline than WTI was. Gold price is still relatively weak. Brexit. They need to keep they need to keep gold. Gold is not going to go anywhere until we finally have a collapse in the faith in the EU government, and that's that's probably not going to happen now until after the European parliamentary elections. Bolton won't attack Iran because he cares about what happens to America? Yeah. No, is John Bolton smart enough to realize that 300? I think even John Bolton is smart enough to realize that $300 a barrel oil is in nobody's best interest. Yeah. Oh, so reckless man, if you don't understand how the fracking works is, fracking wells have fracked wells have a very they have a very short lifespan. Now, technology and changes in fracking techniques and whatnot have changed the size shapes of these curves, but there have always been a very high initial output and then a very high initial output and then a very quick drop off over the course of the next 6 months. Like, and the well, for example, will say it'll produce, say, 500 barrels a day on the initial frac. Within a year, it'll be down to 250 or even 200. Old fracking techniques would be down to 200, even 150 barrels, and then it would peter out over the next 18 months to 2 years. New fracking techniques get slightly lower. So a slightly lower initial burst, but then actually frack more oil over time. So the curve is different. So that 500 barrel well might only frack initial of 400, but then it'll produce 200 for 5 years. And it'll actually, or 10 years, and actually produce far longer. The fracking curves have changed. But the thing is that the entire industry is literally on a treadmill of having to constantly drill new wells in order to pay the upfront cost of actually drilling the wells. And it's been nothing but negative cash flow the entire time. Even new technology and even using the cheapest sand imaginable has not improved, has not improved the economics. And so part of the reason why Trump wants lower interest rates is because he wants the frackers to be able to get to expand production by pulling production forward from the future through unsustainably low interest rates. So it's still a Ponzi scheme. It's less of a Ponzi scheme than it used to be, but still is. Are the frackers actually making money? In free cash flow? No. In suckering investors to buy into them? Yes. Franz is here. Oh, I'm sorry. No, AOC is here with that comment. Well, isn't fracking a bad thing? It depends on your view of the world. Frankly, it really does. If you believe that we can somehow run the world on wind and solar and low density and turning low density, low energy density into high energy density needs like electricity, then yeah, it's a bad thing. If you actually like living in a first world economy, kind of not so much. Yeah, we're all dead in 12 years anyway, so why don't we just go out and party? Fuck it. Why are we talking about this shit? I'm leaving. I'm gonna go do something else. I'm gonna go, I don't know. Whatever. The whole U.S. economy is a Ponzi scheme. The whole global economy is a Ponzi scheme. What's the over-under on the Fed pushing high-yield shale credit in QE4? Purchasing high-yield shale credit in QE4? Pretty freaking high. Pretty freaking high. Too bad though, friends, you're a little late because it's been an hour and I'm done. So gonna remind everybody, if you haven't, 81 people in the stream. I'm gonna move over from here in about an hour or so. I want to move over to dlive.com or dlive.tv. Here's the link. Go ahead and follow me over there so that I want to do some testing, some kind of informal chats. We're not going to really do anything kind of organized or anything. I just want to like get used to the platform, get my muscle memory down of how to do one, and see if it's any good, see what the picture looks like, you know, shoot the shit, you know, hang out, play some Nintendo. Lots of drillers are making money now. Lots of drillers are making money now. I believe that. I've seen that. The because the technology has changed, because the techniques are better, you know, and because their initial property costs weren't ballooned in a boom in a boomtown environment. So I agree. There's plenty of the big issue, there's plenty of money to be made if the economics are right. There's a lot of guys making money at $35 to $50 a barrel. So, all right. So, is anybody confused about what we're gonna do? It's what? It is 9:42. Let's reconvene on DLive at around 10:30, maybe 10:45 or so. Just go ahead and follow the link. Go ahead and follow me over there. I want to get as many people from this channel onto that one. I may even do a small introductory video and post it up on. Should put it up on the YouTube channel as well. But yeah, I want to try and get a bunch of. I want to at least try it. So here's the gig. Since I mean, if again, we're going to find out if it's successful or not. Apparently the platform works. So there we go. You probably won't have to create an account. It's not a big deal. It's just, you know, an email address and all that. But it will be a blockchain based account. So you will be, you know, by interacting with people over there, you will be, and even just interacting with the streams, we'll all be making small amounts of little of the Lino cryptocurrency, which governs the platform, and we'll see how it works. Okay. So let's do that. All right. All right. Well, then I'm going to get going, and we're going to talk shit on DLive. And here's the other thing. I don't even have to feel like I have to censor myself. France, fuck you and your Green New Deal. There we go. That's the show, guys. I'm out. Been the Go Goats and Guns Hour. Keep your stick on the ice.